Alpha of Ashes, Part II, The Blood Moon Oath, a gentle continuation of the tale of Callum and Selene, prologue. Every dawn after fire carries the taste of ghosts. The fortress still breathed smoke when morning came. Ash drifted like pale snow through the broken windows of the Ember Keep, and beneath the gray light, the world seemed to pause quiet, waiting to see if it had survived the night. Selene woke before the sun rose. The air smelled of rain and cinders. Turned, the thin fabric of her cloak brushing the charred floor, and saw Callum at the edge of the hall, his back to her, his hand pressed to the wound that never quite healed. The mark of the first flame still burned faintly there, pulsing like a sleeping heart. "You didn't rest," she said softly. Callum didn't turn. "I tried. The fire inside me doesn't sleep." The silence between them stretched, not cold, but fragile. They had survived what should have killed them both, yet peace felt heavier than battle. Selene crossed the distance, her bare feet silent against the stone. She reached for his hand, brushing her fingers against the pulse of his flame. "Warm, alive, dangerous. You saved us," she whispered, "but you're still burning." His gaze flicked to hers, those storm-dark eyes, weary and fierce. "If that's the price for keeping you breathing, I'll pay it." The words lingered in the air like smoke. Outside, the sky began to change from pale silver to the faintest blush of red. The light spread too quickly, too deep. Selene's heart stilled. "Callum," she whispered, stepping closer to the window. "The moon. He turned in time to see it. The sun's rise painted against the fading night, and above it, a second light, faint and blood-hued, hanging where no moon should be. The blood moon. Out of season. Out of time. It shouldn't be here," Selene breathed. "Maybe it never left," Callum murmured. The air crackled faintly, a low hum running through the stones beneath their feet. Deep in the belly of the mountain, something ancient stirred, the first flame, whispering not of victory, but warning. And far beyond the horizon, in the valley of ash and bone, a new light flickered, red and cruel, like a heartbeat returning to a corpse. The night was not over. It had only been waiting. Chapter 1. The days that followed blurred into one long twilight. The sky never fully cleared. A faint crimson haze clung to the horizon, as if the moon's shadow had stained the world. Callum threw himself into rebuilding what remained of the Ashen Keep. Stone by stone, wall by wall, but the cracks always returned. The fortress seemed to resist healing, as if the flame itself refused to let go of its wounds. Selene spent her nights in the lower halls, tending to the wounded and whispering prayers in the old tongue. Sometimes, when the torches burned too low, she heard voices in the embers, soft, distant, and heartbreakingly familiar. "Selene," she froze each time it came, her pulse quickening. It was always faint, always gone before she could answer. But tonight, the whisper came clearer, not from the fire, but from the mirror of water in the basin beside her. She leaned closer. A reflection shimmered in the rippling surface, a face she didn't know. A woman, silver-eyed and crowned in flame. "Child of the first light," the reflection whispered, "the scar is opening again." Selene recoiled. The basin went still. The torches flared and guttered. Above her, heavy footsteps echoed Callum's voice, breaking through the quiet. "Selene, are you here?" she exhaled shakily, wiping her hands. "I'm fine, just tired." But Callum saw the way her hands trembled, the shimmer of moonlight still clinging to her skin. He reached out, tracing her wrist where the faint sigil of their bond glowed. "The flame inside me feels it too," he said. "Something's shifting, as if the mountain remembers." Selene met his eyes, her voice barely a whisper. "Then maybe the war isn't finished." He took her hand, pressing it against his chest, where the scar burned brightest. "Then neither are we." Outside, thunder rumbled not from the clouds, but from deep within the earth. And for the first time since the battle, the fire in Callum's eyes flickered with something that wasn't strength. Fear. Chapter 2. The past is a quiet fire. It only burns when you touch it. The path that led to the old temple wound through the northern cliffs, where frost still clung to the rocks, and the wind carried the low howl of wolves. Selene and Callum rode in silence. The crimson haze in the sky never faded now. Even daylight came tinted with rose. Callum's stallion snorted and shied as they passed a field of broken statues. Once they were saints, or alphas, or lovers. No one remembered anymore. Now only faces half melted by ancient heat stared up at the passing horses. "It feels wrong," Selene murmured. "It feels familiar," Callum answered. At the ridge's crest stood what was left of the moon goddess's shrine, marble bones of a temple, the roof long fallen, the air still laced with the scent of dust and old prayers. When Selene stepped inside, the ground warmed beneath her feet, and the torches along the wall flared to life as if greeting her. Callum stayed near the entrance, hand never leaving the hilt of his blade. "You said this place was forgotten." "It was," Selene whispered, "but something woke in it." At the far wall, an altar of white stone remained intact. Symbols were carved across its surface, spirals, flames, and the intertwined figures of a man and woman crowned by a twin moon. One bore the mark of fire, the other the mark of light. Selene brushed away the dust with her fingers. Beneath the carvings, words appeared in the old tongue. "What does it say?" Callum asked. "When fire took a lover's heart, the moon wept blood," she translated softly. "And from their vow the world was bound." She looked up at him, her voice lower. "It speaks of a pact, the blood moon oath. Two souls tied to the flame, sworn to keep it alive. But one broke the promise." Callum's jaw tightened. "Who?" Before she could answer, the torches flickered. The light shifted to red. A cold breath moved through the hall, and the carved figures began to glow. A woman's voice echoed through the chamber, gentle, sorrowful, endless. "I was the first wife. I gave him my moonlight, and he burned it into war." The air around Selene shimmered. In a blur of heat and light, she stood no longer in ruin, but in memory. The temple whole again. The scent of incense, the hum of prayer, the first alpha kneeling before his mate. The woman with moonlit hair turned her face toward Selene. It was her own reflection, centuries removed. "Child of my line, he will seek you again. The oath cannot die. It only changes names." The vision cracked like glass. Selene stumbled, the world snapping back to ruin. Callum caught her before she fell. "Selene, What happened? She clutched his arm, breath ragged. The curse, it began with them. The first Alpha and his wife. He used the flame to conquer. She tried to stop him. Their bond tore the world apart. Callum's eyes darkened. And now it's using us to finish what they started. Or to end it, she whispered. Outside, the sky broke open in thunder. A single drop of crimson rain fell on the altar and hissed like a brand. From far below, deep in the mountain's heart, a pulse of fire answered the storm. Callum looked toward the horizon, where lightning bled through the clouds. Then we'll find whoever waking it. Selene nodded, though her voice trembled. And if it's one of us. He took her hand, fingers rough, eyes unflinching. Then we burned together. The torches dimmed, leaving only the faint glow of the carvings, the lovers of fire and light watching over them. Chapter 3. Truth has no mercy. It burns clean, even when it kills. The road to the hollow peaks was narrow and cruel. Wind howled through the canyons like the cry of something trapped, and the stones themselves seemed to bleed light when the moon touched them. Selene wrapped her cloak tighter. No birds, no sound. Callum's voice came from behind her, low and wary. Old lands remember. They don't forgive. They reached the cave at dusk, a mauve-black rock that breathed warm air and the faint scent of roses and ash. The entrance shimmered faintly, and when Selene's hand brushed the stone, ripples of light fanned outward, showing 1,000 reflections of herself and Callum in the glass-like walls. The oracle lives here, Callum asked. She doesn't live, Selene whispered. She endures. They stepped inside. At first it was only darkness. Then a soft hum filled the air, a single, vibrating note that made the torches flare on their own. The ground beneath them was made of obsidian that mirrored the stars, though they were deep underground. And at the center of the chamber, seated on a throne of melted glass, waited Lyra. Her eyes were blind and luminous, a color between silver and smoke. Her hair fell to the floor, braided with fragments of crystal that caught the flicker of the fire. You've brought the flame, she said without moving her lips. Selene bowed instinctively. Oracle, we seek the truth of the blood moon, why it has returned. The moon does not return, Lyra said softly. It remembers, and memory demands payment. Callum took a cautious step forward. We just ended a war. The first flame should have sealed the curse. Lyra smiled faintly, the kind of smile that knew pity. You sealed the wound, but not the heart. The flame feeds on love, yours, hers, theirs. Every vow made beneath bloodlight binds again. That is why the sky burns. Selene's pulse quickened. There must be a way to end it. The oracle lifted one hand. The air shimmered, forming 2 phantom shapes of fire and moonlight entwined. When fire meets light, the bond renews. But when love burns too bright, it becomes the very curse it sought to heal. The illusion trembled. One figure turned to ash, the other to tears. When the blood moon rises twice, Lyra whispered, one heart must fall for the other to rise. Silence. Selene felt the words like a blade sliding between her ribs. Callum's jaw clenched, his eyes never leaving the oracle. No, he said, quietly, but with the weight of command. I won't let her die for me. Lyra's blind gaze turned toward him. It is not death, Alpha. It is choice. Every fire needs fuel. Every love demands a name. The air shimmered again, and this time the reflection showed something different. Callum, standing alone in a burning field, and Selene's hand reaching for him through the flame. She stepped back, heart pounding. That can't be real. It is not yet, Lyra said. But soon. The glass beneath their feet rippled, showing visions like fractured stars, armies moving under crimson skies, wolves crowned in ash, and a figure cloaked in white fire standing atop the ruins of the Ember Keep. The blood moon oath has been spoken again, Lyra said. A new alpha seeks the flame. He wears no name, you know, but his heart burns with the same sin as the first. Ronan Vale, Callum muttered, the name tasting like smoke. Lyra's head tilted, as though she heard a sound far away. Then the story turns again. Go, children of flame. The moon waits to judge you. The torches went out all at once. When Selene opened her eyes, she and Callum stood outside the cave again. The stars wheeled above them, too bright, too close. Callum reached for her, thumb tracing her cheek. We'll find another way. Her eyes glistened in the starlight. If the prophecy demands a heart, maybe the only choice left is who gives it. Neither spoke after that. The wind carried the echo of Lyra's voice all the way down the mountain. When fire meets moonlight, remember what you promised the night you first burned together. Chapter 4. Every crown is a snare, forged from the hands that crave it most. The ride back to the valley was silent. Night had fallen heavy and strange, the stars veiled in a restless haze of red. Selene's mind replayed Lyra's words again and again. One heart must fall for the other to rise. Each repetition cut a little deeper, like the slow tightening of a thread she couldn't untangle. When they reached the borders of the Ashen Keep, the scent of smoke hit them before they saw the light. The outer watchtowers burned. Callum's voice sharpened. Armor up. Stay behind me. But Selene was already running toward the gate. The courtyard was chaos, soldiers scattering, flames licking the stone walls. And through the smoke rode a column of riders bearing banners of black and silver. At their head, a man dismounted with deliberate grace. He removed his helm. Pale hair fell to his shoulders, and eyes the color of cold steel met hers. He smiled, not cruelly, almost with curiosity. Selene of the first flame, he said, at last. Callum's sword was in his hand in a heartbeat. Ronan Vale. The newcomer inclined his head. Alpha Vale these days. The northern clans have long memories. They remember the fire that burned them to ash. You came for vengeance, Callum asked. For truth. Ronan's gaze lingered on Selene. And for her. She felt the pull immediately, the hum of something old and magnetic beneath his words. The same current she felt in the blood moon itself. It unsettled her, not because it tempted, but because it recognized her. Callum stepped between them, the fire in his veins flaring. You're trespassing on sacred ground. Sacred, Ronan's laugh was quiet, bitter. This ground was cursed before your line ever built its keep. Behind him, his men fanned out, spears lowered. The first flame is dying, Ronan said. The blood oath that keeps your world alive is breaking. You felt it, haven't you? The tremors, the fire in your bones. You think you can hold it together with love and good intentions. You're wrong. He stepped closer. The flame doesn't need lovers. It needs a king. Callum raised his blade. It already has won. Steel met steel, the sound ringing across the yard like a crack of thunder. Sparks flew, the torches bent backward in the wind. Ronan fought like a storm, fluid, ruthless, precise. Callum met him with raw power, every strike a pulse of fire. Around them, soldiers hesitated, unwilling to touch such fury. Selene called out, but neither man heard her. The moon above turned deep red again, staining the courtyard in bloodlight. Then suddenly, Ronan's blade slipped past Callum's guard and pressed against his throat, not cutting, only holding. The fight stopped as abruptly as it had begun. Ronan's eyes flicked to Selene. "Tell him to stand down. I didn't come to kill, not yet." Selene's voice trembled. "Then why are you here?" "Because the prophecy isn't about which heart burns first." He lowered the blade. "It's about which one chooses to." He turned to leave. "The blood moon will rise again in 3 nights. When it does, come north. Or watch everything you love turn to ash." He mounted his horse and was gone before they could stop him. Only his words lingered, heavy as the heat still pulsing in the air. Callum sheathed his sword slowly, his jaw clenched. "He won't stop." Selene touched his arm. "Neither will we." But when he looked at her, he saw the reflection of the red moon in her eyes, and for the first time, the fire between them flickered with doubt. Chapter 5. Moonfire and Steel from Alpha of Ashes. The Blood Moon Oath, Aurora's Tales. Love is not the opposite of war. It is the reason every war begins. The night after Ronan's warning, the keep felt smaller, its walls too thin, its torches too dim. Selene could hear the tension in every echoing footstep. The soldiers whispered about the north, about the pale Alpha whose eyes had caught the moonlight and refused to let it go. Callum spent the hours before dawn in the training yard. Each swing of his sword carved light from the air, each breath left a trace of smoke. He moved until his muscles trembled, until the fire beneath his skin quieted. When he looked up, Selene was there. "You should rest," she said gently. "I tried. Dreams burn hotter than blades." She crossed to him, her fingers brushing the line of his jaw. "You can't fight what's coming alone." He caught her wrist, eyes searching hers. "I don't know how to protect you from what I don't understand." "Then understand me," she whispered. "Let me share the fire." For a moment the world was silent, but for the sound of their breath. Then his mouth found hers, warm, desperate, grateful. The flame that bound them flared, not destructive this time, but alive, like a pulse under the skin of the world. The ground trembled. Somewhere in the depths of the keep, metal groaned and a bell tolled. The alarm. They broke apart. Callum's eyes darkened. "He's early." The first attack came at sunrise. Ronan's scouts moved like ghosts across the field, their armor dull, their blades catching the red dawn. The soldiers of the Ashen Keep formed a line along the broken walls. Callum's command rang through the air, firm and unshakable. "Hold the flame. No one crosses the gate." Selene stood beside him, moonlight already gathering in her hands. Her power was calmer now, refined by purpose. Where his flame roared, hers sang a harmony of light and heat. The first wave hit. Steel clashed, fire burst, screams rose. Callum's blade became a blur of motion, every strike leaving trails of golden embers. Selene raised her arms, and a shield of silver light unfolded over the courtyard like a second sky. Arrows struck it and hissed out of existence. "They'll break through," Callum shouted over the roar. "Not if we merge the light." She reached for him. When their hands met, the fire and the moonlight fused, a brilliant blaze that flooded the battlefield. Enemies fell to their knees, blinded. The flames turned white, pure and soundless. Then silence. Even the wind stopped. When the light faded, the attackers were gone, retreated, scattered, or dead. Only ash and steam remained. Callum staggered, the glow fading from his eyes. "Selene," she caught him before he fell. "I'm here. Don't let go." Never. The bond between them pulsed once, twice, then steadied, their heartbeats finding the same rhythm. But in the stillness that followed, Selene felt something else. A hollow tug at the edge of her mind, a cold echo that didn't belong. A whisper, Ronan's voice, carried on the dying heat. "You felt it too, didn't you? The flame inside him isn't his anymore." Her breath caught. Callum's skin was fever hot, his pulse too fast. Beneath his collarbone, faint lines of silver light moved like veins of molten glass. He opened his eyes and saw the fear in hers. "What is it?" She shook her head quickly. "Nothing. You need rest." But she knew. The fire she had helped him awaken was changing him, burning brighter, yes, but no longer fully his. And above them, hidden by smoke and storm, the blood moon began its slow rise again 3 nights early. Chapter 6. Sometimes the sharpest blades are forged from good intentions. Rain came at last, though it fell like ash, soft, gray, scenting the air with smoke. The keep slept restlessly. Even the fires along the battlements hissed and sputtered, uneasy under the weight of the storm. Selene sat alone in the war chamber, her fingers tracing the map spread before her. Ink bled slowly through damp parchment, rivers of black cutting through lines of defense. Callum was resting, his body still recovering from the light they had summoned. The mark of the flame on his chest glowed through the bandages, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat that didn't belong to him. "You're carrying too much alone." The voice came from the doorway. Darius stood there, soaked from the rain, his face drawn and pale. He was Callum's oldest friend, the one who had sworn to die before betraying his king. Selene forced a tired smile. "If I don't carry it, who will?" He stepped closer, eyes shadowed. "You can't save him." Her hand stilled. "What?" "Seen it, the way the fire takes him." The oracle's words weren't a warning. They were a prophecy. One heart must fall for the other to rise. Selene's voice trembled. "You don't understand. The flame is changing him, yes, but it's part of him. If we control it, control," Darius cut in sharply. "You think you can reason with an ancient curse? I've seen it in his eyes, Selene. He won't stop until he burns everything to keep you safe." The wind moaned through the cracked shutters. Darius's tone softened. "There's another way. Ronan sent word. He can draw the flame out of Callum, bind it to himself. He's offered mercy." Selene's heart went cold. "You spoke with him." "He doesn't want war," Darius said quickly. "He wants balance. He said if you give him the relic, the ember core, he'll spare Callum and end the curse." Her hand closed around the pendant at her throat. The ember core glowed faintly, as if it had heard the name. "You believe him?" Darius's eyes filled with something that might have been guilt or desperation. I believe in saving my king before he becomes the monster he was born to fight. Selene rose to her feet, anger flashing through her exhaustion. You'd trade his soul to a murderer. I'd trade mine if it meant saving his, Darius said quietly. You of all people should understand that. The torches flickered, a gust of wind snapping through the hall. For a heartbeat, Selene saw the struggle in him, loyalty and fear warring behind his eyes. Then he turned and walked away, his cloak vanishing into shadow. She found Callum awake not long after, standing at the open window, the rain turning to steam against his skin. Darius spoke to me, he said before she could speak. He told me what he planned. Selene froze. He's only afraid for you. He's afraid of me, Callum corrected, his voice low. And maybe he should be. He turned, the fire in his eyes brighter than ever. I can feel it, Selene, the flame pushing, whispering. It wants out. It wants war. Then fight it. He smiled sadly. I'm trying. But if it wins, it won't, she said, cutting him off, stepping close enough to feel the heat of his breath. We are more than prophecy. You are more than fire. Her hand on his cheek steadied him. For a moment, the heat subsided, and he exhaled softly against her palm. You still believe in me. Always. Thunder rolled above, deep and close. Neither of them saw Darius ride out through the gates that night, cloak pulled tight, a single torch in hand, and a sealed message strapped to his saddle. The storm swallowed him whole, carrying him toward the northern mountains, toward Ronan Vale. And behind him, the moon broke free of the clouds, crimson once more. Chapter 7. Every oath is born from love, every betrayal too. The night Darius fled, the keep seemed to sense his absence. The torches burned lower, the walls groaned softly, and the fire in the hearth would not catch. Selene woke to the sound of horses and a storm building in the east. Callum was already at the gate, his face set in shadow. He's gone. Selene's heart tightened. Where? North, toward Vale's stronghold. He took the ember core. The words hit harder than a blow. The relic, he stole it. He thinks he's saving me. Callum's gaze was distant. He'll hand it to Ronan himself. Selene grabbed her cloak. Then we go after him. No, Callum said sharply. If I leave the keep, the flame goes with me. The men won't survive another surge. Selene's voice softened but didn't waver. Then I'll go. He turned to her, eyes burning. You can't face him alone. I have to. The moon calls to me now, the same way the fire calls to you. If I don't follow it, it will consume us both. He reached for her hand, holding it tightly enough that she could feel the tremor beneath his skin. Swear you'll come back. I'll return with the dawn, she whispered, even though she didn't believe it. Their lips met briefly, a promise sealed in heat and salt and rain. Then she was gone, her horse vanishing into the dark mouth of the forest, the blood moon watching from above like an unblinking eye. The northern roads were rivers of mist. The trees grew older here, their bark blackened from ancient fire. Selene rode hard, the pendant's absence heavy against her chest. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw Darius's face, the guilt, the fear, the love twisted into something desperate. By the second night, the moon had turned the color of fresh blood. Wolves howled in the distance, their cries threading through the wind like music. She found him at dawn. Darius knelt before the gates of Vale's fortress, his cloak soaked, his sword discarded at his side. Ronan stood over him, hands clasped behind his back, the ember core glowing faintly in his palm. "You shouldn't have come," Darius said when he saw her. Selene dismounted slowly, her voice quiet. "You should have trusted me." Ronan smiled faintly. "Ah, the moon's chosen bride arrives. How poetic." "Give it back," she said. "It's not yours to claim," Ronan replied. "The flame predates your love. Your alpha's power is borrowed. The relic belongs to the blood that first bled for it mine." Selene's temper sparked. The flame chose Callum. "It chose hunger," Ronan countered. "And hunger always finds its way home." He tossed the relic into the air. It spun once, blazing red, before he caught it again. The light from it painted his face in hues of molten gold. "Watch," he whispered. "See how it remembers me." The relic flared, tendrils of light curling up his arm. The air crackled, and Selene could feel the shift like two notes clashing in the same chord. The first flame screamed in his grasp. Darius cried out, "Stop, you'll tear it apart." Ronan's voice deepened, layered with something not human. "It was already broken. I'm only finishing what the first alpha began." Selene raised her hands, moonlight gathering at her fingertips. "Then you'll do it over my ashes." Light and fire collided. The ground split, the mountainside shuddered, and the relic shattered in Ronan's grip, releasing a column of crimson light that reached the clouds. The blood moon flared brighter, answering the call. When the light faded, Ronan was still standing, but his eyes burned red, the veins beneath his skin glowing like lava. "You've woken it completely," he said softly. "Now the flame must choose again." Selene's knees weakened as the air filled with the taste of iron and ozone. The world itself seemed to pulse. Ronan took a slow step toward her. "When the moon sets, one of you will die and the other will ascend. That is the blood moon oath." Behind him, Darius rose, blood on his hands. "Selene, go." "Not without you." "I betrayed him, Selene. Don't let me betray you too." He turned his sword on Ronan, buying her seconds. The clash of metal rang like thunder. Selene ran, light bursting from her palms, the echo of the oath following her into the storm. One heart must fall for the other to rise. Chapter 8. Some flames are not meant to be tamed. Some are meant to teach the stars how to burn. The wind carried the scent of fire long before Selene saw the light. The forest behind her glowed red, trees bending as though bowing to a power too ancient to resist. The blood moon hung directly above, vast and unblinking, bleeding light into every shadow. She stumbled to her knees, breath shallow. The magic thrummed beneath her skin, wild and restless. She could still hear the clash of Darius and Ronan's blades echoing behind her. Every heartbeat whispered the same truth: Callum will come. And he did. The ground trembled, and the night split open. Callum appeared through the trees, eyes burning gold, his cloak torn by wind and flame. The fire inside him was no longer contained. It crowned him like an aura, alive and dangerous, as though the first flame itself had taken human form. Selene stood, tears streaking her face. "You shouldn't have come. Think I could stay behind while you faced him alone?" Before she could answer, Ronan emerged from the burning mist. Darius was nowhere in sight. Smoke clung to Ronan's shoulders like wings of ash. His eyes blazed the same violent crimson as the moon above. "So," he said softly, "the fire and the moon meet at last." Callum's hand found his sword, but it burned too hot to hold. The metal melted in his grip, dripping to the ground like molten silver. Ronan's smile deepened. "You're unraveling, Alpha. The flame is feeding on you now." "Then it will feed on my enemies first," Callum growled. The air erupted in light. Fire and moonlight collided, throwing shadows miles long across the field. The trees screamed as they burned, and the earth split under the weight of their power. Selene tried to reach them, her hands raised, her voice lost in the roar. "Stop, you'll destroy everything." Neither man heard her. Callum's flame met Ronan's corrupted fire, and the two forces writhed like living creatures. Sparks turned into storms. The moon above bled brighter until its reflection touched the ground, until she felt it. The prophecy. A voice not her own whispered inside her mind. When fire meets moonlight, one must fall for the other to rise. Selene looked up through the smoke. Callum's knees buckled. The flame inside him burned too fiercely, consuming from within. Ronan laughed, drunk on his stolen power. Selene ran forward. "Callum, let me help you." He shook his head, eyes fever bright. "If I let go, it'll take you too. Then we'll burn together." He reached for her hand, but Ronan struck first. A blade of red fire cut across the air, and Selene cried out as the light tore through her shoulder. Callum roared, the sound shaking the mountain itself. He turned on Ronan, fury and grief fusing into something transcendent. The fire flared white. The air warped. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. And then, as the blood moon R